Hey everybody, this is Charles Love, Director of Operations for Showtech Solutions in Tampa Bay, Florida. And today I'm going to give you an introduction to Microsoft OneDrive and SharePoint. This is really meant for somebody who is new to OneDrive and SharePoint or somebody who just wants a few tips and tricks. So let's start off with what is OneDrive? So OneDrive is a file and sync tool that comes free with every paid Office 365 license. Most of the time, people don't even know they have it. And it's a really cool tool. And hopefully at the end of this presentation, you'll see why, and maybe you'll even start to use it. The big thing about OneDrive is that you can access the data that's stored in it from any device. Technically, all you need is your ID and password. So think about that for a second. If we're not using some kind of two-factor, then that's all you need, your ID and password. So if you're using not the best password in the world, I know we all do it, and somebody somehow gets a hold of that password, maybe you used it at another site, then technically you're just making it easy for somebody to get in and take your stuff. So if you're using Office 365, we highly recommend you use two-factor. If you currently don't have a code or a push button you have to do every time you log in, definitely let me know. We need to fix that. But again, ID and password and hopefully a two-factor code get you into your data. The other kind of neat thing is it's the same data regardless of your device. So you can have an iPad, a tablet, a computer, a Mac, whatever. And as long as you have everything turned on, the moment you save a file on one, it's available on all of the other devices. The other kind of cool thing with OneDrive is that you can turn on desktop documents and picture sync. So let's say you're the kind of person like me who stores a lot of stuff on your desktop. By turning that feature on, it automatically gets saved and it automatically gets backed up. And if I, mess up a file, I can hit a button and I can go back and undo my mess up. So that's pretty much what OneDrive is. There's two main versions of OneDrive. The stuff that comes with the Outlook and Hotmail, which is the personal, and then there's OneDrive for business. For today's presentation, we're only going to talk about what I call the blue cloud, which is OneDrive for business. A lot of the times we'll end up on somebody's computer and we'll see the gray cloud there, and it's probably tied to their Hotmail or their AOL account or Gmail. And most of the time, everyone says, I don't even know why that's there. So typically, if we see the personal stuff, we'll disable it because you don't get a lot of the same security features and the space that you do with the business that you do with the personal. And the other thing to remember is with OneDrive for business, which is what you get with 365, you get a terabyte of data per user. And when you start syncing to the server, then it's like almost unlimited. So it's a lot of space, whereas with the free one, you only get like 200 gigs or some very small number. So how do you get OneDrive? Chances are if you're running Windows 10, you already have it. You just may have to log into it. So all you have to do is click on the Start button, type in OneDrive. If you've not used it before, log in with your 365 credentials, and away you go. If for whatever reason you can't find it, go to office.com, click into OneDrive, and in the lower left-hand side, there's a place to say Download OneDrive. For your mobile device, a tablet, or whatever, there's probably an app store. Make sure you get the official Microsoft OneDrive application. And again, it uses your Office 365 username and password, and hopefully you have two-factor. If not, then anybody can get to your data. So let's talk a little bit about the icons. So when you look at the icons, the blue cloud is going to be business, right? We talked about the gray cloud, but that's probably the last time I'm going to mention it. So the blue cloud is business. So when you open up your file folder, you'll see OneDrive-company name. Now that company name is whatever your 365 system is set up as. If you've changed names over the years, it's just going to be the old name. You can't change it. There's a way to change it. It's a project. We're basically moving you to a new system. Most people just leave it. You also have the building. Now, the building is something you have to turn on. Somebody has to go in and sync a Teams environment or a SharePoint environment. That is not on by default, but the blue cloud is. Now, when you're in things like Word and Excel, sometimes you'll see the picture of the building and sometimes you'll see the SharePoint like circle logo thing like you see here on the left. In your brain, just kind of assume they're both the same thing. So if you need to sync a SharePoint library to your computer, it's pretty easy. You go to Office, you go into OneDrive, you find the shared library, you go into the folder and you hit sync. What I will ask is if you currently have a synced library to your computer and you think it's having an issue, don't sync it again. Because what will happen is somebody will inadvertently try to sync the same library twice or 3 times or 4 times. We've seen that. And it causes all kinds of trouble. Think of it like this. If your library is 300 gigs in space and you've accidentally synced it 3 times, you are now consuming 900 gigs of space on your computer. And every time you touch a file, it has to sync it 3 times, right? It's kind of a pain. The bigger issue here is most computers have like a 200, 300 gig hard drive. The math simply doesn't work. So it really does create all kinds of issues. If you feel you do have to resync the library, the process is to unsync the old stuff, delete the old stuff, and then sync the new one. So definitely call the help desk if you're running into this. But if this is a brand new machine, you've never synced to it before, have at it. Go to your library, hit the sync button, and away you go. Now, in the beginning, I talked to you about backing up your desktop. Nobody backs up your desktop anymore, right? There's software we can definitely sell you for $15, $20 a month to back it up, or we can use OneDrive, which kind of does it for free. It's pretty simple. So you go into the OneDrive icon, you go to More, you go into Settings, and then there's a Backup tab, and then you hit Manage Backup. Now, if on that screen there's 3 checkboxes that say Start Protection, that means you are not backing up your desktop documents and pictures. And as you can see on the screen here, I have 1.7 gigs of data on my desktop. Go ahead and hit Start Protection. Boom, it's going to move the files to OneDrive and it's going to put little icons on it. Now, every time I save a file to my desktop, I know it's going to be safe. If you find your way to this Manage Backup and it says Stop Protection, well, that means it's already on. So you don't really have anything to do there. If you want us to double check it, just let us know. Now, the neat thing is if you're using pure play Office 365, your Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Publisher, all that stuff is actually integrated in. You'll notice here on the screen, you'll see my OneDrive ShowTech. That is my personal corporate OneDrive, meaning it's tied to me. If there's files in there and they delete my account, those files go away. And then you have the building where it says Sites ShowTech. So if I go into Sites, then I could say I want to go into the Teams library, I want to go into the documents, and then I can do it that way. That's actually the official way you're supposed to use SharePoint. But what a lot of people do is they like to sync the library back down to your computer using Office because maybe they want to see it in the File Explorer. The thing to remember when you do that, there's a shim. There's something between you and SharePoint, and that's OneDrive. So when you're in File Explorer, the file has to go to OneDrive, sync up to SharePoint, come back down to OneDrive, and then go to your computer. Whereas if you're doing it this way, you are directly on the SharePoint site. If you're running into a lot of sync issues, don't use OneDrive, right? It's just that simple. Just use Sites, go into your documents and edit it that way. It's going to try to always want you to work in the online version of the document, but there's a little button to hit that says open this in my Excel or open this in my Word, right? So it's just one less kink in the chain there. The other thing I'm going to recommend you do is if you're going to work on a document, open whatever document you're going to have, do File Save As, and put it where you want it. If it's a brand new document, open it up and then immediately File Save As. And the reason for that is autosave. Autosave is a new feature. It basically says, hey, if the file exists in a library or in OneDrive, autosave it. So every couple of seconds or minutes, it all kind of depends, it's just going to automatically keep saving. And the reason for this is so that you can have more than one person in the document at a time. If you turn off autosave and somebody else opens that document and they have autosave on, their thing is constantly saving. But if you turn it off and then you hit save, you're going to wipe out all the changes the other person did. It starts to really become an issue. So just kind of be aware of that. A good tip here is when you open up a document, like a lot of times I'll open up a contract and maybe I want to save it. I mean to save it, but I'm just going to start editing it. I'll save it at the end. And then I realized I've been overwriting the old contract the entire time. So definitely get in the habit of, if I'm going to change the article, file save as and make it a new file. Now, in the event that you did do what I just said not to do, which is you open up a contract and you spend 2 hours on it and you realize, oh man, I forgot to do a file save as, like he said in the video. No big deal. You just simply go File, Info, Version History, and here you can just go back in time, right? You can go back to the file, but when you first opened it, save the new one as the right contract, go back, open this one, and revert it. This is kind of like free backup and file history. The other kind of neat thing here is you can see who's messing with the file. You call them up, hey, get out of here. What are you doing? Don't touch this file, right? You could just kind of see what's going on. And it's all time stamped. And this is the same audit trail that we get. So a lot of times somebody will say, well, I didn't change that file. I didn't rename it. I didn't do this. We go right to here and it's like, well, this person did, right? So very, very good stuff. Now, when it comes to sharing a document in OneDrive, if you're sharing it in what I call SharePoint or Teams or in the building, you don't have to do this. Just tell them where it is. If you're sharing a document with somebody outside, you have 3 options. Option number 1 is in the upper right-hand side of a Word or an Excel file. Hit the little share icon. Option number 2, go File, Info, Share. Option number 3, go to office.com, find the file, and you can share it. The thing in common is all 3 of these all share the information the exact same way. Now, when you hit that share button, this is the screen that comes up. Now, the settings are really dictated by the organization, but in most cases, anyone with link can edit. So if I'm sending somebody a file, and it says anyone with link can edit, if somebody forwards that email to somebody else, well, they can edit it too, right? That can get a little dangerous. So what I like to do is I like to click where it says anyone with link can edit, and I'm going to maybe say specific people, right? Or I'm going to give them, I'm going to turn off editing. So I'll say anyone with this link, no editing, but maybe I'll set a password on it. You can also set an expiration date. What I like to do is, set the expiration date to be like a month away, right? Because if you don't set an expiration, that file is shared forever, right? And if somebody else's, let's say you send a document to somebody and their mailbox gets compromised because they had a terrible password and they didn't have 2-factor, they could now edit your files. A little bit dangerous. So make sure you don't always do that. Just, with great power comes great responsibility. So be safe with what you do here. Now, if you're sharing a document or you're in a library together or whatever, if 2 people are in the file at the exact same time, just below your little picture in the upper right-hand side, you'll see who's in the document with you. So as you can see, Corey snuck into this document while I was working on it, right? And what's kind of neat is in Excel, it's a lot easier. It's kind of similar in Word, but in Excel, there's these little colors. So as you can see, Corey has a little blue ring around him. And in Excel, there's a blue little indicator telling me where he is. It even says that he's specifically on cell H16. From here, I can open up a chat and we can literally chat about the document together. Even though he sits 10 feet from me, I can chat with him in the Excel file, right? So super handy. Call him up, tell him to get out of the file, find out what he's doing, right? It's a neat way to do it. So think about the old way, right? I would take a document, I would send it to Corey. Hey, can you make your changes? And then, he's out at the coffee machine and I make a couple more changes. And then I send him another document and go, hey, I made a couple more changes. And then he finally gets to the first one and we're never on the same page. By doing the sharing, we're always on the same page because we're always sharing the same file, right? No more attaching files to an email. And you'll notice is once you have OneDrive and everything set up, if you try to attach a file that's in a OneDrive location, Outlook's going to go, hey, I see this is in a OneDrive location. Do you want to just share this? Or do you want to attach it? I'm always a fan of sharing it. Just because, if the file is 1 meg, why have it in email for the rest of your life, right? Every time you search, you're going to try and find that file. So anyway, but that's kind of handy. If you have like 15 people in the document, you see 15 different colors, it gets a little crazy, but this is super cool, right? And this is all with autosave and all that stuff. Now, when you are sharing those libraries and those big OneDrive folders and all that stuff, you have a really cool option. And what you do is you go to the top folder, you right click it, and you say free up space. Okay. What free up space does is it says, hey, delete everything off my computer, keep it in OneDrive or SharePoint, but I just don't want it on my machine. Right? So let's pretend you have or we'll go back with the 300 gig library, but I only have a 200 gig hard drive. The math doesn't work. So I'm always going to say free up space on the top of the library. And as you access files, it'll download, it'll keep those, and away you go. If there's a certain folder that you have that you want to, let's say, always have on your device, because maybe you're going to go to the cab and then you don't want to have internet on, you can say always keep on this device and away you go. Once you get internet, it'll sync all the changes up. So the other big thing here is know the icons and always kind of keep tabs on them. And the top screen, you can see the status box is empty, but on the bottom screen, they're not. The top screen, that folder is not syncing OneDrive. Either that folder is outside of OneDrive or OneDrive is currently broken and you need to reboot your computer. So always be cognizant of that. It never fails. We'll get a call from somebody that says, hey, we're not syncing. I'll get on their computer and I'll go, show me the folder. And they'll show me the folder and the status box is empty. I'll log the user off or reboot the PC. And next thing you know, I'm the magician. It works, right? We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but keep tabs on that column. Now the column can move depending upon the view you're in. That's why I kind of did it this way. Now, when you look at those files, there's 4 different pictures I want you to be aware of. The little circle with the green check, that means, hey, I've downloaded that file to the device. So that file is currently sitting on my computer. The little sync icon means it's currently syncing. Something has it open, somebody has it open somewhere, it's waiting to sync. There could be a problem with it, we're not sure, but that file is in transit. The picture of the cloud means that file is not on your device and somebody has done a free up space. And then the green circle with the white checkbox means it is currently on the device because somebody said always keep on this device. So just kind of be cognizant of those 4. Now, there is a kind of a cool feature with OneDrive, and that is to request files. Let's say they need to send you some giant spreadsheet that just bounces because it's too big. Go to office.com, you create a folder, and then you do the request files. Now you can go into the folder, hit request files, or do what I do, hit the little ellipsis and say request files. And then what you'll do, it's kind of a 4-step process. You'll say, hey, I'm here the stuff and things I'm requesting you, right? The first window is what happens after you hit request access. You give it next. And now send the file request. You have 2 options here. You can either send the email directly from here, or you can copy that link and send your own email. Totally up to you. On this screen, which is number 2, you could say, hey, please upload your documents here. Thank you. Have a nice day. Go ahead and hit send. And then when they receive the email, they're going to get an email from SharePoint going, hey, Charles is requesting stuff and things from you, because that's what I said on the title, right? If you look at number 1 and you look at picture number 3, stuff and things are both there. So I'm going to then hit add file, upload. I picked a shortcut, no big deal. I'm going to put my first name. I'm going to put my last name. I'm going to hit upload. And then what it's going to do is it's going to upload that file. It's going to say, hey, you've uploaded the file. And then in a couple of minutes, I'm going to get an email that says, hey, somebody has uploaded a file to the stuff and things folder, and then I can hit see new file and it'll take me right there. That's super cool. It's kind of like an encrypted way to receive data because it's going through the encrypted SharePoint, through an SSL key and all that stuff. So pretty neat, pretty neat. Now, a couple of tips and tricks as we wrap down this presentation. Um, the OneDrive will always tell you when there's a problem, right? You always want to make sure OneDrive is happy because when it's not happy, everything gets jammed up. So on your tray, by your time, you hit the little blue cloud, and in this case, we're trying to upload 52 gigs of data, and it's having all kinds of trouble. Just click on the thing where it says tap to click more info. We're going to go a little bit into that here in a minute. It'll tell you what's going on. 9 times out of 10, there are temp files, which are 0K in size, which it won't like. We'll have to delete those. Like sometimes you see a Word document with like a tilde in the name where there's no data. OneDrive is saying, hey, I can't send a file that has no size, right? So we just got to go find those and delete them. We'll run into that on an initial setup a lot of times, or when somebody wants to move a bunch of data. The other thing is if there's a PST, which is an email archive. You can't put PST archives inside of OneDrive. We just have to move it out. So just see what it says. Sometimes you just kind of have to let it be. When in doubt, reboot. If you've rebooted and it's still giving you a grief, go ahead and call the help desk. We'll take care of it for you. Now, another big issue we run into is the file length of a folder. OneDrive currently has a limit of about 400 characters. That means from the C:\/ all the way through, can't be more than 400 letters long. Now, you go 400, that's totally fine. It's not, especially when your business name is very long. Like for us, Show Tech Solutions, that's pretty long. That all eats away, right? So before you're even at the file name, you're probably 100 characters down. I don't think backslashes count, but hashtags and underscores and dashes and things like that, those are special characters, and those are technically 3. So you notice how I have on the red, it says hashtag or pound dash dash dash. So each one of those 5 characters counts for 3 items, right? So it's 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, so if you're a person who likes to use a lot of special characters because you want it to appear a certain way, it does eat a lot of space. Now, oddly enough, I've seen folder paths like super duper long. And it never gives an issue, but sometimes it does, right? It's welcome to computers. If you start getting these errors that say path are too long, not a valid file name, it's a really good indication that your path is too long. So look all the way at the bottom. See how I have the red where we have Showtech Solutions, which is the company, Showtech HQ, which is the SharePoint site, and the file is stored inside of documents and hashtag marketing. And then I created another folder called hashtag dash 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 emails to send to our customers about the upcoming hurricane. And then inside of that folder, there's another folder called underscore edit by Charles. And then inside of that folder, there's a folder called draft 1. So I'm trying to save a file in there. I can't because I'm getting the path name is too long. So that's a conversation that you have to have with your team. So for now, maybe you save that to your desktop, you save it somewhere else, because we need to talk about renaming that folder. And that's something you guys have to do. So in this case, I renamed that crazy folder to simply -hurricanes /D for drafts -Charles1. And as you can see, it's a whole lot shorter. And now I'm able to save that file. So just kind of be aware of that. Another big thing that comes up a lot, and we'll talk about this here in a minute, is file rename conflicts. So a lot of times, like you'll see, I was working on the Office 365 backup flyer. Pretty cool software. It backs up your email contacts, calendar items and OneDrive and SharePoint and Teams and all that stuff. So we have a pretty cool flyer. I've been working on it. Sometimes I forget, perhaps, maybe, to close the application when I shut my computer off every night. Or somebody else is in the document and OneDrive is not sure whose file is the most correct, right? Maybe the change is so subtle. It's like, I think there's a change, but I don't know what it is. So what OneDrive will do is it'll pop an error. And as you can see down below by the time, the OneDrive has a little red X on it. That means, hey, OneDrive's not happy. So I click that, and then it says, hey, we have a sync issue. We're not quite sure what to do. And then you're going to hit the resolve button, and it's going to give you a choice. Delete a file or keep both. 9 times, probably 10 times out of 10, you're going to say keep both. Now, sometimes it doesn't show that message and it just assumes you keep both, and that's why you have these files. This is really up to you. If you see that, you have to make a judgment call. Which file do I want? Do I want to just leave them just for safety? Who knows? So the cool thing here is to see how it says desktop-clove1. That's my computer. Something is up with my machine. Either I'm not rebooting correctly, my OneDrive's having an issue, I'm doing too much, whatever. At least we know whose computer is causing the trouble, and we can go investigate those. So very handy. You never want to see a red X on your OneDrive. You always want to walk through it. Now, the joke about IT, right? Always want to reboot. I want you to think of it like this. Pretend you have a very large library to sync. And OneDrive is kind of like a web browser and has to kind of know about all the files. If you're the kind of person who doesn't reboot your machine but once every week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we have a couple of those out there, well, OneDrive never has a chance to kind of reset. It's kind of like never ever closing your browser or any tabs you ever have open, right? And it's going to slow your PC down. So what I like to do is tell everybody, look, log out or reboot every day. If you're leaving, that's a good way to secure your machine. You'd be surprised the amount of people who just walk away from their computer, right? But I like to definitely do start, log off, or reboot. Every night, it lets OneDrive kind of catch up. The other thing is, and we're going to talk about that in a second, be sure to close Word, Excel, Snagit, Notepad, all that kind of stuff. We definitely see this a lot. It's a pretty large amount of help desk calls where, hey, my OneDrive isn't working. And of course, we reboot and we go to the start button and the OneDrive icon is missing. And what we've been finding is some of the programs are now getting smart. If you're like in a document that's not auto-saved and it's not sure what's going on, and you go to do a reboot, you'll see what you see here on the screen. Hey, something is preventing the machine from rebooting. Do you want to restart anyway, or do you want to hit cancel? This is your chance to go, oh man, yeah, that's right. I had an email I was in the middle of. I have a notepad open. I have a Snagit, whatever it may be. And when you hit cancel, what you're going to see is the program going, would you like to save this file? Right? And you're probably going to go, no, cancel, and then it's fine. And then you can do a start, shutdown, reboot, and away it goes. But we see a high volume of people who just leave things open and just do start, shutdown, reboot, and just assume it's all good. Well, what happens here is if you don't respond to this window, this closing app and restarting, it starts closing everything. It closes OneDrive, it closes antivirus, it closes the security, right? It closes your DNS filtering, all the various programs you have. It'll try Word, Excel, PowerPoint, blah, 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 blah. But if that window comes up, it won't reboot your computer. But you think it did because you told it to reboot. It actually just locks the screen for safety. You come in the next day, you start working, and it's like, man, my PC's weird. Like my Teams isn't running, my Outlook wasn't running, OneDrive is broken. Let me call the help desk. They tell you to reboot. Now you're upset because you could have done it on your own. This is a big thing. It happens way more than you would think. So the best thing I like to tell everybody, close all your programs. Notepad is the number one offender of this, and nobody ever saves notepads, right? But definitely try to close all the programs. What I tell people is if you're going to reboot your machine, don't walk away until you see the black screen, like the reboot, like where before you'll see the Lenovo, the Dell, the HP logo, right? That's the best thing you can do. That, I will say 9.9 times out of 10 will resolve most issues with OneDrive. So with that, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions or want to kind of run some scenarios, do let me know. I hope you enjoy OneDrive and SharePoint, and I'll see you on the next video. Talk to you soon.